Hi, welcome back to Colorado Springs Senior Living Resources. This channel is where we interview senior serving professionals to help make late in life transitions easier for our older adults here in Colorado Springs. My name's Clay Martin with Clay Martin Homes at the Cutting Edge Realtors. And today we're going to be talking about something to help seniors stay in their home longer so that they can remain independent for longer. Today I sit down with two Colorado Springs firefighters, Kalee, Nappo, and Daiko Abe, and they are going to talk about the CareLink Risk Reduction Program, which helped them identify concerns and connect seniors with valuable resources throughout the community. Let's jump right in. The first question I want to ask you guys just to talk a little bit about yourselves and your involvement with the Colorado Springs Fire Department.
Yeah, so my name is Kalee Nappo. I'm with the Colorado Springs Fire Department. I am in the Division of Fire Marshal and work with the Community Education and Outreach team. I have been born and raised in Colorado Springs, so I'm a native here of Colorado Springs, and so I have many family members tightly knitted into the community, and my husband is also on the fire department. He's a captain with the fire department, and so it was wonderful for me to be able to leave my previous job in education for 20 years and fold it into my fire family and be able to bring education to the fire department.
I love it.
Yeah.
And how about you?
Yeah, my name is Daiko. I'm also with the Colorado Springs Fire Department within the Division of the Fire Marshal and the Community Education Outreach team. Kalee and I are colleagues and just love working together. And I actually have only been with the department for 1 year. I come from the private sector, from the disaster consulting world. For the last 17 years, I've been all over the country doing emergency management, disaster management, consulting services for large and small jurisdictions across the whole country. When it comes to this topic specifically, when it comes to one of the worst disasters that we've experienced as a world and witnessed from a first world nation, the incredible tsunami and earthquake and Fukushima radiation nuclear plant catastrophe that Japan saw. A lot of my relatives actually were in the epicenter of that disaster, and my grandparents, older adults, experienced it firsthand. And so I have seen, just from a professional side, the impact and importance of just really caring for our older adults when it comes to that emergency disaster situation, all the way to from a personal standpoint as well. So just really fortunate, grateful to be part of this incredible team here in Colorado Springs, and just an opportunity to engage our community, older adults, younger adults, and everyone in between, right? And just trying to make our community better, safer, and stronger.
Absolutely. It sounds like y'all are perfect for the job that you guys are currently in, right?
Absolutely. I feel like, life kind of hands you different cards, and it's a stepping stone, and it's provided us life experience. It's provided us opportunity, and it's really given us some good background to be able to support our community.
Clay, we have the best job.
Yeah.
We get up every single day. We
Mhm.
work for the fire department, right? So we're
Mhm.
supporting community, we're supporting operations, our firefighters, because as we keep our community safer, we're also helping our firefighters on the line stay safe. But it goes so much bigger than just fighting fires. We're actually trying to prevent fires, right? And other life safety challenges that we experience every day as a growing community. And so what we do is like so meaningful and so powerful. So it's really easy to get up each day, put on the uniform, and just engage with our community and get a firsthand knowledge of where the issues and concerns are, but also be part of the solution.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that a little bit. When I first met you, Kalee, we got together to talk about how we help seniors.
Mhm.
And specifically, I help them transition from point A to point B. But some people do not want to transition. They want to stay at home and age in place.
Mhm.
And you mentioned a program that I believe you are revamping,
Yes.
and it's called the CareLink Risk Reduction Program for seniors.
Correct. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how it originated and then how and why you guys are revamping it?
Yeah, so a caregiving program is through the fire department, and it is to support pretty much those that are 65 and older, and those that also support our aging population. And so we support independent facilities, we support assisted living, nursing home, all the way up to memory care. And then we're also providing resources for those that are aging at home as well. So just making sure that we are really being intentional with our approach. So when it was first developed, it was more of a reactive program. And so we were seeing that there was an uptick in calls, and we were trying to figure out what was the uptick, which it's typically falls and lift assists. Now we're trying to kind of revamp it to be a little bit more proactive. So providing those resources up front, making sure that we actually have the community perspective. We'd like to fold in a lot more of supporting the caregivers as well. So making sure that we're a little bit more proactive than reactive. So that's why that we have kind of revamped it. But we still have a lot of areas that we need to kind of fine tune a little bit. But the CareLink program is just anyone that is supporting our aging population. We want to make sure that we're providing those life-saving measures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, when you look at our older adults and you look at some of the trends, and so one of the things that Kalee and I and our team do is we are also involved in a community risk assessment project. So we're really trying to, from a very data-driven process and reaching out to the community. So we have a survey currently out with over 1,083 respondents. It's a super long survey, very comprehensive, that really addresses all the preparedness gaps and issues, concerns, the services that our residents would like us to see. And of that 1,083 that we've collected so far, 569 have been our older adults, 65 and over. So they're a very engaged group and a very invested member of our community, and they have really responded. And so we know, based on that data and trends, just when we look at the demographer's office for the state of Colorado and others, that this is one of the fastest growing population segments, 65 and over. I think we've got about 70,000 based on the 2024 census information. Currently, overall, we have 500,000, close to 500,000 residents in Colorado Springs, but that's a huge segment, about 14.7% of the total population. But in 2050, we're looking at maybe 20% of the population in the state of Colorado is going to be over that 65 and over group. And so what Kalee is doing has been phenomenal. And that has been a really big focus of our group and the fire department, is how can we support our seniors, our older adults, and then the trends of aging in place, right? People can't afford to or don't want to, live outside of their home. And so we're seeing a lot of trends that are going to definitely impact our older adults. And so the work that our team is doing to really support our incredible residents, older adults, is going to be important now, but we really see it being even more important in the future.
Right. I keep hearing this term, the silver tsunami, right?
Yeah.
If baby boomers they're not getting any younger, and they're going to need more and more help. And I think what you said, what I like, is being proactive instead of reactive.
Right.
It gets stressful when it's reactive. And I'm guessing for you all, it's the same thing. When it's very reactive, you're kind of stretched thin, and there's limited things you can do to help in the moment. But if you can put the work in up front, it helps reduce the amount of need in the moment.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I love that word reactive, because as a fire department, right, we are a very reactive group. The alarm sounds, we jump in the engine or the truck, and we go to the emergency. And what our group is a little bit unique within the division of the fire marshal. On the prevention side, it's really about the proactive side of how can we be proactive and first understanding our risks and vulnerabilities, understanding our community, what those emerging trends are, and then proactively, and we can't do this by ourselves. We need everybody to be part of this effort to really help address our vulnerabilities and our risks.
Absolutely. So this program is mainly for seniors, but is there another group that maybe this CareLink would focus on, like people with disabilities, or like who all does this program encompass?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, no, the CareLink program is not just only defined for those that are 65 and older, but those that also may need additional services. So, those with different disabilities, mobility challenges, so access to services. So, making sure that we are providing things for all encompassing. We have a wonderful relationship with mentoring students over at UCCS that are getting into the workforce industry and trying to teach them the value of supporting our older population and making sure that we're starting as young as we can to be able to bring the awareness to not just the older population, but those that are going to serve and support the older population.
Okay, awesome. And so my next question I wanted to ask is, what is the most common challenges or some of the most common challenges that seniors face while living independently at home?
Most common challenges that a lot of seniors face is more or less not having a solid plan that they have practiced. So they are very aware of what they need for emergency preparedness, but not actually putting that into practice. Another thing that we've noticed is not having working smoke alarms or malfunctioning smoke alarms. So not having the proper equipment to alert them if there is an emergency. Another big thing is making sure that seniors are friends with their neighbors, so they have somebody checking in on them if something is off that day. I was speaking to someone the other day that was talking about how they check on their neighbor. Is their neighbor every morning opens up the garage door just a little bit, and then in the evening they close it down so that they can see, oh, they're okay, they're up and around, everything's good. So I think it's more or less having those relationships with their neighbors and their community members. So if something is off, that they have somebody that's supporting them, because not all of us have family around. So it's just being one of those good community members. But so many risks at home with, like I stated, with the smoke alarms, the CO detectors. Cooking is a really big hazard that we have in the senior home. So just being a little bit more aware, more present when we're cooking, because we're all sitting here texting on our phones or walking out of the room. So just making sure that we're a little bit more alert when we are doing activities in our home, so that there aren't any of those mishaps that can take place just as easily in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's really cool about, for the first time, we have a collection of a lot of data, right? So instead of speaking in generalities of what some of the national and statewide trends are, we have data that can actually speak directly to Colorado Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the participation of so many older adults, one of the things that was really stood out in some of our research findings and survey findings is that the awareness and the knowledge, the wisdom is there. So our older adults, they've lived here a long time. The majority of folks that have participated in our study have lived here over 20 years, experienced Waldo Canyon, Black Forest, right? They've lived some of the biggest incidents and emergencies our community has had. So they have the knowledge and the wisdom. But now we're talking about, like Kalee was saying, with some of the capability elements, the
Mm-hmm.
ability, right? And it's not for lack of knowledge. The knowledge is there. When compared to the general population, they're typically more prepared. They've actually have a plan. They have working smoke alarms, some of those things. But in terms of testing them, replacing the battery, when it comes to, again, the ability to do these things, when it comes to actually practicing their escape plans, whereas they have much more compared to the general population, a plan and have thought it out, have it on paper. In terms of actually practicing it, only 5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at some of the capability versus the wisdom, that's where we feel as partners, maybe we can provide a little bit more assistance in the actual capability and the execution of some of these important safety measures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's dig on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
If somebody were to just the simplest plan of action, how often should we be, including myself, replacing batteries and testing carbon detectors and smoke alarms?
Yeah, so smoke alarms and detectors, they have a life or a shelf life. And so you need to be replacing them every 10 years with the smoke alarms. However, we always say that it's always smart every springtime when the time is changing to make sure that you're double checking. But best practices monthly is just making sure that everything is up and running, not only for the smoke detectors and the COs, but also making sure that you're updating any of your personal information, which we'll touch base on this a little bit later, but making sure that all of your medication is up to date, that your paperwork is in alignment, that you're checking your go bag if you have an emergency evacuation. But frequently checking on those emergency tools, and also speaking with a doctor as well. So making sure that all of that stuff is in alignment. But alarms are only good for 10 years and COs are only good up to 7. And so you need to make sure that one tip that we actually give people is that if you can write on the outside of the detector in Sharpie what the manufacture date was, because when they're up high and they're kind of out of reach, it's really hard to know when did I last put that in or when was it installed. But if you write it on Sharpie, you can see it as you look up. So it's a nice little quick tip to be able to glance and go, oh gosh, that's over 10 years old. I need to replace it.
Okay. And that's what we see a lot of times. Again, a lot of our older adults live in homes that are older than, that were built before 1990. And when's the last time any of us have actually replaced our smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors? I mean, just being honest, when's the last time, right? And so what we do find is you may have them and think that they're working, but if you're not testing them regularly, you may have a false sense of security thinking, oh, I've got my carbon monoxide detectors, got my smoke alarm, but they're 20 years old, not even functioning. And so that's one area, again, especially when we're talking about our older adults. Again, the knowledge is there, the ability to climb a ladder, get up high, replace them, test them. So now they make these 10-year sealed lithium-ion batteries, so you don't have to change the batteries out every year, which is for a typical smoke alarm or CO detector. We're saying replace your batteries every year, but now with the new technology, lithium-ion batteries, you have a 10-year sealed battery. But again, most of our older adults don't have those in their homes just because they're in older homes or other locations. And so those are just small little tips that I think go a long ways and hopefully helpful to our audience today.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the CareLink program. If you all were to give a detailed explanation of what exactly the CareLink program is from a stance of how to make sure the home is safe, but also in terms of severe, what's the term, like emergency scenario, stuff like that. Talk a little bit about adult children, or tell the adult children how they can help their mom and dad and what to expect from the CareLink program.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of safety tips and tools. We call them safety spots that are located on the Colorado Springs website, coloradosprings.gov. And we provide home safety checklists. So this is a great time for family members to go through and make sure that everything's safe. It's a great tool to use. An appropriate use of 911. So making sure that we understand when to utilize 911, which there's only 3 reasons why you should be utilizing 911. It's to stop a crime, report a fire, or save a life. So making sure that we really understand what is that 911 emergency. And if you're not sure, then utilizing the non-emergent number, which is 444-7000. But making sure that families also have that emergency preparedness. We had a mishap that had happened this year at one of our facilities where they went and had a power outage. Power outage went on for 5 hours, and we had many people that were relying on medical devices. And so they didn't have an alternative for the medical devices. And so everyone was scrambling, very emergent, trying to figure out how are we going to get oxygen? How are we going to help people that have CPAP machines? So just making sure that you have that plan B if there is a power outage. If there is an evacuation, do you have 3 to 5 days of stuff planned ahead and prepared? Do you have all of your medical information set up with your doctor? So just making sure that, not only on the inside of your home are you prepared, but are you prepared to be able to leave your home if there is an evacuation or a power outage? Yeah.
And I got so much good stuff for you, Clay, on this my world. So, and then we have real data, right?
Yeah.
It's preliminary, and the survey is still ongoing. But when we talk about older adults here in Colorado Springs, based on the 569 responses, wildfire is the number one concern. 81% indicate, wildfire. And it's not just the flames and the fire, right? It's also the air quality, it's the smoke, it's all these things, some of these secondary indirect impacts that can have a significant effect on our health and well-being. And so, just knowing that, and we did, just for this podcast, like I did some statistics over the weekend to figure out, okay, of all the different findings and variables, which ones are statistically significant. Knowing multiple routes out of your neighborhood is really important. Just the fact that, and again, I want to preface this, just because you're an older adult, it doesn't mean that you're inherently more vulnerable, but with that comes the mobility challenges. And sometimes, a lot of times, they live alone, right? So not having the ability to have others in the household help you if you have access or functional needs, whether it's cognitive, physical, emotional, all these things. So
Pets
is
That's
a big one. That's
right?
a huge one. In fact, the number 2 reason why someone may not evacuate if they really, really, really want to, but simply won't or can't, pets is the number 2 reason. Traffic is number 1, but just barely, right? And so it's not just about your own preparedness and planning, especially for older adults. It's being aware of my cat or my dog or my other special animal that I might have, right? These are all things that might be barriers. And then when we ask, in the survey, if you might need assistance evacuating or leaving your home, who might help you? 38% were like, I don't know, right? And so just, the such an important point of knowing your neighbor, knowing your friend. When that big tsunami in Japan hit and that water was rising, my grandma and my uncle were living on the mainland, and the water was rising, and my uncle put my grandma on the table. The water kept rising, put her on the counter. At that point, they're like, there's nowhere else we can go. And they thought, you know what, that's the end. Fortunately, they lived right behind the fire department. And as they were evacuating canoes, they knew my grandma was a vulnerable person with some limited mobility functionality. And so they grabbed her and my uncle, put her in the canoe, and they were able to evacuate, right? And that's an extreme example. Hopefully we have nothing like that here. Definitely won't have a tsunami.
Well, I mean, I do think I'm relating that to basically living on the west side.
Yes,
Mhm.
wildfire.
People have burn scars.
Yes.
It's damn near the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that speaks to awareness, right?
Yeah.
And Kalee will speak to this a little bit later, but peak alerts and just making sure you have the ability to be notified, and with all of us, right? We have different needs and challenges, whether it's auditory, visual, mobility, whatever that might be, is just making sure we can be notified in the event of an emergency. And then as neighbors, making sure we're spreading the word. We're finding more and more, not just in this study, but across the spectrum, that there's this phenomena of trust but verify, right? So you receive the alert, you receive the notification, and then what does everyone do? They jump on social media or they call their friend or neighbors. Like, are you seeing the same thing? And so as neighbors and friends, we need to kind of just really emphasize the importance of when you receive an evacuation warning or notice, right? When you receive instruction from public safety officials, that you heed them right away, especially if you might need extra time, extra help. And so those are all things that will go a long way. We hear it every day, but we don't do it, right?
Yep.
And so that's probably our message today is it's one thing to know it, it's the other thing to be able to do it and then know what our capability to do it actually is. And if we need help, make sure you have that plan ahead of time. If you know you're going to need extra time or extra support to evacuate, make sure you have that plan in place, that you've communicated that plan, and when that information or that warning comes, that you act on it and you don't wait until you're in a situation where you can actually evacuate or move on a situation.
And the one thing that we also heed is not just knowing your next door neighbor and your local neighbor, but do you have a neighbor across town? For example, with the Waldo Canyon fire, do you have someone that you can go to that will take your pet with you? Do you have somebody that you can stay with, up to 3 to 5 days, rather than just relying on whatever the evacuation is provided and whatever shelter is allowed? Making sure that you have that plan of somebody across town, not just within your neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess to sum that up, make sure you have a plan. Make sure you put that
Practice.
plan into practice.
Yes. Right. More than one.
Think of your pets.
Yes.
And think of your pets as well.
I did hear somebody recently talking about when they evacuated, they had horses. More than just like a cat or a dog in a car, right?
Yeah.
They have to load the horses up. They're now pulling a trailer. It's very complicated. Do you guys have anything to say on that? Yeah,
so we work with the Humane Society, and they have a great system where they work with our fire department. And if we are having to evacuate, they kind of almost find like a foster situation where they can foster the animals temporarily while they're being shifted during the emergency. So the Humane Society works very closely with the fire department in finding alternative places for the animals for temporary refuge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody's watching this video right now and they say, hey, I want to either for themselves or for their mom and dad have an assessment. Do you all provide assessments? And if so, what does that assessment look like?
Yeah, so we currently are supporting those to kind of take ownership and do a self-assessment. So working with your neighbors, working with your family, even taking it on yourself of taking that ownership. So the first thing would be is making sure that you sign up for peak alerts. You can sign up at peakalerts.org, but receiving that emergency notification, that's your very first step, is to make sure that you know when an emergency is happening. With the home assessment itself, we have all of our tools at coloradosprings.gov. We are looking into being able to support the community with in-home assessments. Right now, it's just not in practice right now, but we do have the resources and tools. And then you can always reach out to us at the Colorado Springs Fire Department if you're curious or you've got any questions. No question is a dumb question. It just helps all of us be a little bit more prepared in learning. But it's more or less making sure that you're communicating with your family, communicating with your neighbors, communicating regularly with your doctor as well, so that everybody's on the same page. So it's just making sure that you have a plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and Clay, we do work a lot with our partners.
Mm.
And, you know, your efforts and even just getting this message out is so important. And nobody can do this by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? It really takes the entire community, all our partners. And so we are very engaged. And I will just give Kalee a shout out. She, you know, when I came onto the fire department about a year ago, we quickly recognized that of all the demographics of all the groups, that we really needed to prioritize our focus based on the trends, based on the
Mm-hmm.
need. We quickly identified that this was going to be very meaningful and much needed in our community. Mm-hmm. And so she's gone out into the community, really made a lot of relationships and connections, mm-hmm. and understanding of what services are and are not available in our community. And so as we work with our partners on a day-to-day basis, ensuring that where we can help, we will certainly help, and just connecting. And really, when I look at this incredible work that's happening by all of us, right, it's all about connection. Mm-hmm. And so, I think one of the things with especially our older adults is just be connected. And they are so amazing. Like I love them because they're already so invested in our community. They have, mm-hmm. so much wisdom, so much knowledge, so much passion and love for our community. And so it's finding those that perhaps are not connected and then ensuring that they're part of this big network and effort. But going forward, we'll certainly look at other ways that we can be more intentional and more, mm-hmm. specific and targeted, ensuring that we're reaching everybody and helping them out as much as we can. But really, I just want to emphasize how grateful we are for this shared partnership, mm-hmm. because it's been pretty phenomenal for even me to, as a newcomer, right, to the department, to see how many people and organizations care about our older adults.
Well, what's so neat too is everybody calls the fire department for questions and concerns and inquiries. And so, for example, last week I reached out to you because I knew that you had connections throughout the community, and we had somebody inquiring that was kind of in a dire need of special support. And I was able to reach out to you and say, hey, do you know anybody that has this specialty? And boom, you were able to send some contacts. So it's that connecting, it's the partnerships that's so important for everybody to just be involved.
Well, I want y'all to know it's greatly appreciated because my family's back home in Kentucky, and over the last handful of years, my grandfather had a gradual decline. He's much bigger, mm-hmm. In terms of height and weight than my grandmother, mm-hmm. and she relied on the fire department a number of times, mm-hmm. and it was just really helpful. And just being, multiple states away and 1,200 miles away, it's really helpful and pleasing to know that there's people out there taking care of our loved ones, whether we're close by or not.
Right.
If you guys had any advice to give to seniors that want to remain independent for as long as possible, what are the things that you guys are seeing right now that just, mm-hmm. really contribute to that independence?
Yeah.
Yep.
So things that I think you could be a little bit more proactive and remain more independent is just becoming aware of your surroundings. So rugs are just the number one thing. It's a tripping hazard. It's a slipping hazard. So removal of rugs, making sure that, hallways are decluttered so that you can get in and out quickly. You're not tripping or moving things as you're moving around. Having grab bars before you even need them. So, just having them aware, knowing that, maybe your abilities may change through time, but making sure that you don't have electrical cords running throughout the house, being very intentional with your placement. But the biggest thing that I always recommend is make sure that you have a line of communication on you at all times, whether that is your cell phone or some of us wear the wristbands or the necklaces. that if something occurs, that you are able to have some type of stretch out for help if something occurs. So being able to call 911 if you're on the floor, or if you're in the bathroom and you have a slip, trip, or fall, if you have some type of notification system that alerts someone that something may be off. So just being aware of what is your communication system if you do happen to be down or unable to seek help. So making sure that you have that on you at all times is really important.
And I'll just throw out a basic one: movement, right? Once we lose our ability to move and be mobile, it affects everything, right? So in addition to just keeping our environment safe, and I've just learned that mobility aspect, movement, right? So I know some of our partners really invest in Tai Chi and other just movement exercises. It provides that social connection, which is so important, right? And we keep talking about the importance of connection, but just movement, right? The ability to move, because once you lose that, it just, your lifestyle, your mental health, emotional health, everything declines. And so the longer we can just stay active and move safely, right?
Yep.
That's going to be super important.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of folks, and a lot of those scenarios you mentioned have happened. Tripping over cords, slipping on rugs. A big one I've noticed is, if you can, when you start losing mobility, is if your bedroom is on a second floor, go ahead and find a way to make a primary living on the main floor, and limit the amount of steps that you have to navigate through your home, just to avoid those falls.
Yeah. And there's so many partners in the community too that will provide like free consultations and come and take a look at the lay of the land and kind of see, what are some areas that you can improve before you need them. So definitely making sure that, you're moving down to a more successful level where you're not having to use as many stairs, but thinking about those small little modifications that you can do in your house that are not, heavy on the budget, but will help you in the long term.
And Clay, I'll just add, I just think about myself when I'm a little bit older. I'm going to be difficult. I'm going to be stubborn, and my kids are going to hate me. I just know that about myself, right? I may not know that about myself when I'm,
When you're
70, 80, right? But I'll admit that for the audience now, for my posterity. However, it's also those caregivers, right? That are looking after them. They're really the ones that can make the biggest difference, right? Because nobody wants to lose their independence, right? And it's a hard conversation, but as those individuals, caregivers that love their aging parents or others so much, those are important conversations to be had. And then again, helping them execute, actually creating that safe environment, moving their bed or bedroom to the main floor, creating that safe environment, inviting them, encouraging them to join classes and to be active, and not just physically but mentally as well, right? So I think caregivers have a really big part in this story.
Absolutely. Let's move on and talk about a thing called File of Life. What is it, and who should have one?
Absolutely, everyone in the community. It does not matter what age. So what the File of Life is, and I mentioned this a few times, it is a miniature medical record. And so what our paramedics are trained on is to find the File of Life that is on your refrigerator. Now, some of our refrigerators are not magnetic. It does have a magnetic strip, so we just say tape that baby on there. But what it does is it has all of your initial contact information. It has your allergies, any of your diagnoses. And then one of the most important things that's on here, and I'm going to open this up. It's a full sheet that's in here. But one of the most important things is on here is to identify if you have a MOST form, DNR form, any of that stuff. So if you notate that, then we're able to honor your wishes, and it kind of takes the gray out. But I do recommend putting a copy in here. And then, of course, you can put on the notation where the actual original is located. But it's so important to make sure that you're bringing this to the doctor's office with you to make sure that it's up to date, but that it lives on your refrigerator, because we know where to look for it. And what's nice about this is maybe if we were to come to your household and you weren't able to speak to us, this would be your voice. So telling us hospital preference, allergens, if you've got pets, what is the vet's phone number? So just things like that, where it's just a nice little simple pocket of information. And then it helps guide our firefighters on what is the best care for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can somebody find one of those if they don't have one already?
I am so glad that you asked that. So you can either come down to our fire museum complex and you can get them from myself or Daiko. But you can also get them, all of the fire stations carry them. So it's one of those things where maybe you were whisked away to the hospital and you didn't get your file of life back. You definitely need to replace it. You can get the file of life down at our fire museum complex, which is 375 Printers Parkway. You can contact myself or you can contact Daiko. They're also at the fire department, all of the fire stations. You can contact me at 719-385-5182 and I can provide them for you. I just had a big facility that recently opened that is requiring all of their residents to have it as their onboarding. So it's in everybody's file folders to make sure that everybody has that. So we'd rather it be in your hands than in our office. So make sure that you reach out and get one of those. But also, it is not for just the older adults. So anybody that has any medical ailments or any of that. But I mean, we even have them for school children. So it does not matter the age. It matters that your information is there so that we can provide the best care for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Daiko, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think it's such a great program when it comes to smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, file of life. We had to prioritize those things that we want, especially our older adults, to have. Those are things that are so important. It will make a difference especially when you're in a compromised situation where time is everything, information is everything. Right? Very important.
Information is everything. I love it. We're kind of coming down to the tail end of the interview here, and I just want to ask, I know I keep kind of hitting on it, but if it's the same response, that's fine. But what is the most dangerous thing that you all come across at the fire department in homes of most people, but most specifically seniors?
I would say smoke alarms. So making sure that you do not have smoke alarms that are either out of date or that you don't even have smoke alarms. That is the number one thing when we're going on structure fires, is typically not getting that notification early enough. And then of course it's devastating. But smoke alarms, making sure that you have working smoke alarms and working detectors is so important. I feel like that is definitely the number one concern that we have.
And it really comes down to your ability to act in a time of an emergency. So whether it's escaping your home during a structure fire or other emergency, right? Or a wildfire or other natural disaster or emergency in our community, if our ability to escape and remove ourselves from that dangerous situation is so important. So the smoke alarm, peak alerts, it gives us that early notification to act, right? But then it also goes to that ability to actually act and move, right? And so sometimes, whether it's older adults or those with limited functionality, access functional needs, it's understanding and knowing what our capabilities are and being honest with ourselves in that assessment. I think that's really important. And again, I was joking about myself being very stubborn, and that will be very true. But it really takes those that truly love you to have that conversation, to be able to say, okay, here's the risk, here's the vulnerability or concern. Now let's really be honest about what is our capability or your capability to actually act when the alarm sounds, when you receive that notification from peak alerts, or you have a fall and you need assistance, right? How do we notify? So all these things, it's just being really honest with ourselves. But I agree with Kalee. I think once you receive that early notification, that warning, that alert, that alarm, whatever that might be, then it's the ability to actually move and act on that.
Okay. Two more things. One, is there anything we did not cover today that you all want to mention to the folks that may be watching? And if not, that's completely fine.
I don't think so. You did. I loved your questions, so they were great. Yeah.
So my last question, if folks want to reach out to you guys, I know we did this a little bit throughout the interview, but let's go ahead and give them a website that they can go to and the non-emergency line that they can call.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to us, you're more than welcome to reach out to us anytime. My name again is Kalee Nappo, and this is Daiko Abe. And you can find a lot of the information we spoke about today at coloradosprings.gov. And if you select fire department, we have all of our safety tips and tools there. You can also contact us at 719-385-5182. But sometimes when you're not sure if it's an emergency, it's something really that can wait 20 minutes, it's probably not an emergency. So you can utilize our non-emergent number, which is 719-444-7000. But one of the big things that we want you all to walk away with today is make sure that you are signed up for peak alerts. And then if you don't have a file of life, reach out to us and make sure that not only do you get the file of life, but you actually fill it out, do it with your doctor, and then make sure that it lands on the refrigerator.
Awesome. Kalee, Daiko, thank you so much for being here today. I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you all so much for watching this video about the CareLink Risk Reduction Program, the File of Life, and other emergency preparedness preparation plan. If you guys found this information valuable, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button below. And again, the phone numbers that we talked about in today's episode, along with the websites, will be posted in the description below. My name's Clay Martin. I'm here to help you guys in any way, shape, or form when it comes to aging in place at home or creating a plan to sell your home, downsize, and transition into one of Colorado Springs' many independent or assisted living communities. If I can ever be of help to you, please call me at 719-331-0281. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode. Talk to you soon. Bye.